So I'd like to introduce my co-chair, Dan Bartsky. There's Emily Wade. Okay, Adult Ed is sponsoring. I just want to give you an idea of some of our upcoming events. Next week, we're going to have Professor Matt Sinkovitz speaking. He's a professor at Boston College, and he'll be speaking on the media in the Middle East and the upcoming elections. On November 1st, 15th, and 21st, Rabbi Grossman will be having his fall series. He'll be doing, on the 1st, he'll be doing literature of the Holocaust. The 15th will be ethics of the Holocaust. And the 29th will be children's literature on the Holocaust. That's going to be at 8 p.m., which will follow Heidi Wordsman, who's going to learn to speak Hebrew, a pre-Hebrew class that will be starting on October 29th, run for 6 weeks? 26, sorry. And run for 5 weeks or 6 weeks? 5 weeks.
Well, it's a 5-week class, but there will be class of Thanksgiving.
Right.
It will actually run 6 weeks.
Right, okay. And then we also we'll be selling tickets, or we are selling tickets right now to the Boston Jewish Film Festival, which is at the Showcase Cinema in Foxborough. The tickets are $12. The movie is Zero, and it's a Danish film involving somebody who returns to Denmark and finds some anti-Semitism there. So that's the schedule that we have, the immediate schedule for the Adult Ed Committee. And Anne, do you want to mention any social action?
We do have a breast cancer Pink Shabbat coming up next weekend, next Saturday. So we will have a speaker from the Mass Breast Cancer Coalition coming and talking about the environmental causes of breast cancer. And if you have a chance, there's a display right outside the door here. Find out about that.
Okay. I'm going to ask the various speakers to introduce themselves and which question they're speaking on, so I don't mention their names.
Did you describe how we're doing it?
Okay. We're going, the format today will be, we're going to have everyone present at the beginning of the program. Everyone will give about a 5-minute talk on their topic, on their side. And then after that, we're going to have a very freewheeling question and answer period. You've been given index cards. You could write questions on there, and depending on timing or whatever, either you can ask a question or the question will be asked on the cards. Probably, I assume that. It would be good if you turned in your questions, and then you may ask them yourself. So anyhow, can we start with question 1?
Hi there, my name is Kathy Ridden. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 30 years. I work at Norwood Hospital, and I live right here in Canton. And my friend Karen and I are going to be talking today on question 1.
Before you start, it's very important with these microphones that you practically swallow it.
Good to know. Okay, so my name is Karen Kaufman. I'm a registered nurse. I've worked for the Department of Mental Health at Taunton State Hospital for 34 years.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Suzanne Gray-Tessier, and I will be talking about question 1 today. I am a current employee at South Shore Health System who has spent nearly 20 years in state government and is a resident of Westwood.
Good afternoon, my name is Paul Lauenstein. I'll be speaking on question 2, in support of question 2.
Hi, my name is Holly Ryan, and I'm going to be speaking in support of question 3. I'm presently the LGBTQ+ liaison for the Mayor of Newton, Ruth Ann Bullock, and the LGBTQ co-chair of the Massachusetts Democratic Caucus.
Hello, my name is Brian Kamliker. I'm with the Dawn 3 committee. I used to live in Newton with my friend Paul here, but now I live in Westwood, and I'll be giving the no side on question 3.
Okay, now we're going to start with the yes someone.
All right, so I'd like to thank you today for the opportunity to talk about the Patient Safety Act. Question 1 has been endorsed by the State Democratic Party and is part of the coordinating campaign and the Massachusetts State Democratic Party platform. Currently, there is no limit on the number of patients that can be assigned to a nurse at one time, except in our intensive care units. Question 1 would place a limit on the number of patients that can be assigned to a nurse, and it is based on the type of hospital unit and the severity of the patient's health issues, and includes exceptions for public health emergencies. It is not rigid or one size fits all. If you're in a hospital, as you might know, you're pretty down sick today. So you're in the hospital because you require around-the-clock care and monitoring from a registered nurse. Right now, the judgment of the nurse at the bedside is being ignored in many places, and nurses are being forced to care for too many patients at one time. Question 1 allows for early detection and prompt intervention by your nurse if your condition were to deteriorate. This can't and it doesn't happen if your nurse is assigned too many patients. It is not a government mandate. Question 1 was drafted by nurses only after the government and hospitals refused to take action for 2 decades. It was nurses who collected over 100,000 signatures to put question 1 on the ballot. It is the opposite of a government mandate. The limits were developed by nurses for their patients based on the best scientific research, established professional standards, and interviews with nurses from across the state working in all types of hospitals. They also took into account the experience with this law and specific limits that have been in place in California for over 14 years. In fact, studies show that patients in California receive 3.5 hours more per care per day than Massachusetts patients. They have decreased readmission rates in California, which decreases hospital costs, decreased wait times in the emergency departments, and better patient outcomes in hospitals with more nursing hours per patient. These are just some of the few results from research. Right now, Massachusetts ranks 48th in the nation for emergency room wait times. And ED wait times are 47% shorter in California than in Massachusetts. More nurses with fewer patients results in higher quality care and a better flow of patients through the ED. In fact, the American College of Emergency Physicians states that, and I quote, maintaining nurse staffing at levels comparable to those for inpatient and observation units is prudent to provide the same standard of care, treatment, and services to meet patient care and safety expectations. Even the American Nurses Association, who opposes this bill, supports our position related to staffing and argues that not only is it safer for patients and nurses, but it is our ethical responsibility. In a 2016 essay for the ANA, the author, known as a living legend within the ANA, notes that adequate staffing levels reduce medical and medication errors, decrease patient complications, decrease mortality, improve patient satisfaction, and they reduce nurse fatigue, burnout, and improve nurse retention and job satisfaction. Let's talk about implementation now, because we're also hearing that it only, the law goes into effect January 31st. But the only thing that must be done by that date is for hospitals to have submitted their plan for implementation to the Health Policy Commission. Any issue that's decided through a ballot initiative takes time to implement, and this is no different. The MA believes that every patient in every unit in every hospital should receive safe and quality care. It's been impossible to achieve in decades of negotiation and legislation filed. Hospital executives retain the sole authority to determine how many patients a nurse must be assigned. But let's talk about this. When you strip everything else away, this measure gives patients more time with and access to their nurse. So when your loved one hits that call button, their nurse is able to get there. Do you want to be one of 4 patients on nurse's assignment or one of 8? That's what this question comes down to.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today to talk to you about question 1. As I mentioned, my name is Suzanne Cray-Tessier. I'm a current employee at South Shore Health System, which is a community health system in Wayne, Massachusetts. Our service area, we serve Quincy on down close to Plymouth, and we do come as far west, and we do have some camp residents that decide to come over to our health system. And the reason why I really want to be here today is because this is an issue that I feel really passionately about. And it's not just because I currently work in the health system. It actually goes back to all the years of state government experience that I had. And currently, my personal experience of being a mom of 2 young children. So right now, I think a lot of us ask ourselves that this ballot question would give us more nurses in the Commonwealth, and who would ever say that that's a bad idea? And I think that where my experience comes into play is how things really operationalize and how things do end up being implemented. Because over the years when I was in state government, I had to implement thousands of pieces of legislation that were sometimes challenging to do, whether there were resources on the implementing body, on the state government, and really the devil is in the details of what you're voting on. I really encourage you, if you haven't read through your Secretary of State's Red Book, to do that, because this legislation is extremely rigid. It is a government mandate, because a government mandate is something that's set in law, which is what these mandates would do. It would set into law every single unit of the hospital, exactly how every hospital would have to staff at all times of the day. Morning, night, weekends, from MGH down to the Cape, would all be staffed in the exact same way. And again, you may say, well, what's wrong with that? That might be okay. And really, it has to do with how it operationalizes at the hospital. We would have to hire at South Shore up to 250 nurses, and that is a tremendous expense for our health system. But what it also comes down to is we truly don't know where those nurses are going to come from. You may have heard that there's a lot of nurses out there that are wanting to come back into the acute care setting, and that would potentially be great, and that obviously new grads are coming, but across the state, it still wouldn't be enough. So my concern becomes, where do the nurses come from? And that's where my experience also comes into play. I've worked over the years with the Elder Network, with the Long-Term Care Network, with other community-based services, and I'll tell you, from the community-based services I've talked to in our area, they're worried that the nurses are going to come from them. They're going to come from nursing homes, they're going to come from addiction treatment, mental health services, because that's where we're just going to have to get nurses to come into our environment. So where does it leave those services? There are state regulations pertaining to their staffing levels as well, that if they can't get the nurses, they can't get other staff, they're not going to be able to operate the services that they have today, which leaves me greatly concerned for what happens in the community-based network of care that I think we've all fought so hard to develop over the years to keep people at home, served at home, and not in the acute care setting. So then it becomes an issue of access, because we are going to have more the same number of people coming to our ED, which I certainly do not dispute that we have a jamming ED at South Shore all the time. We're trying to think in really big picture ways that we can, again, serve people at home, serve them in more appropriate settings than the EDs. We don't want anyone to have to come to the ED unless they truly need those services. So if we're unable to recruit the number of nurses that we need at South Shore to keep the number of beds open that we currently have today, what our fears due to the ratios, we wouldn't be able to open those beds. If we have one nurse, if she's got 4 patients and that nurse has an emergency, or we're just unable to have the appropriate staffing, it means we can't keep patients in those 4 beds. So you've probably seen a lot on TV and talking about the emergency departments and people not getting through very quickly. That's an issue today. It's going to become an even bigger issue if hospitals can't maintain the current capacity they have today to keep patients in those beds and moving throughout our health system to get you back at home where you truly want to be. So I'm really concerned as a mother of 2 young children with the emergency department. If we do have people coming in, they're unable to move through. I am concerned how quickly my kids are going to be able to get seen. I'm concerned that in this reality, if my kid ends up in an ambulance and the emergency department, which is subject to the ratios, is already at full capacity, my kids are going to be sitting in the ambulance, not getting turned away, that would be in violation of federal law, which we're very aware of, but they're just going to be sitting in the ambulance with a paramedic, with an EMT, waiting till a slot opens up that they can go in. That's not going to be my kid. And I really believe that that's why I can't let these ratios go through. I think that how it gets implemented is exactly how it's written today. That bill says it's effective January 1st, 2019. I think that legislative intent, maybe the supporter's intent is different and allows some flexibility. That's not what the paper says. And again, as someone that's had to implement a lot of legislation over the years, you have to implement exactly how it's written on that piece of paper. So when you think about voting, you have to consider exactly what's on that piece of paper. We are endorsed by a number of community organizations, ranging from chambers of commerce all the way down to the Mass Senior Care Association, because all community network, all of our community leaders believe this isn't the right thing to do for the Massachusetts healthcare system, which is already the best in the nation and the leader in every major quality category. So why would we do anything different that can disrupt the progress we've made in the system we've produced today? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Lowenstein. I'm a retired business owner from Sharon. I'm here to let you know what passing question 2 with you and give you reasons why you should vote for it. Passing question 2 would set up a nonpartisan 15-member commission to, quote, advance the policy of Massachusetts in favor of amending the Constitution of the United States. First, to affirm that artificial entities such as corporations do not possess the inalienable constitutional rights of the people. And second, in order to eliminate the undue influence of concentrated money on elections and on government policy, campaign contributions and spending may be regulated and limited. In other words, the Commission would promote a constitutional amendment to overturn Supreme Court decisions such as Citizens United. The Commission would have until the end of 2019 to investigate the influence of money in Massachusetts politics, ascertain the ability of our state government to regulate corporations, analyze the pros and cons of various amendment proposals, and finally prepare a report of findings and recommendations for actions to be taken by Congress, the state legislature, and other public officials and citizens to promote, propose, and ratify the recommended amendment. So why should you vote yes on question 2? Supreme Court decisions such as Citizens United have invalidated campaign finance laws that limit political contributions and spending. These days, if you can't donate a lot of money, you don't have a voice in public affairs. This is a far cry from the democratic ideal of one person, one vote, where every citizen has an equal say in decisions that affect us all. The consequences of corporate influence are grave indeed, as the following 4 examples show. First, since the Citizens United decision in 2010, over 250,000 Americans have died of gunshot wounds, yet passing common sense gun laws favored by heavy majorities of Americans is next to impossible because of the influence of the NRA, which doles out millions in campaign contributions. Second, according to the Washington Post, at least 200,000 Americans have died in the opioid epidemic, more than 3 times the number of U.S. military deaths in Vietnam. At the same time, the pharmaceutical industry poured over $1 billion into the election campaigns of key members of Congress who prevailed upon the Drug Enforcement Agency and the Justice Department to agree to a more industry-friendly law, undermining efforts to stanch the flow of pain pills. Third, bank regulations passed in the wake of the Great Depression stabilized our economy for almost half a century, a time when the middle class grew and prospered. Beginning in the 1980s, however, the financial industry got Congress to weaken or eliminate such rules. The boom and bust business cycle returned, culminating in the Great Recession of 2008, when millions of Americans lost their jobs, their homes, and their life savings. Fourth, in the 9 years since Citizens United, carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has climbed by over 20 parts per million, and sea levels have risen by over an inch. Yet fossil fuel companies such as Koch Industries can count on Congress for subsidies and tax benefits. The problem of corporate domination of our democratic institutions goes beyond money and politics. When inalienable constitutional rights of individual citizens are extended to include artificial entities such as corporations, the ability of we the people to govern ourselves is diminished. Remember Joe Camel? the mascot to market cigarettes to kids? In 1998, Massachusetts passed a law to protect children by banning cigarette advertising within 1,000 feet of schools and playgrounds. The Supreme Court struck down the law, saying it violated the First Amendment speech rights of tobacco companies. Should corporations have unlimited constitutional rights to say anything they want, regardless of the consequences for society? Or should we, the people, through our elected representatives, have a right to pass laws to protect our children, regardless of the consequences for corporate profits? 4 Supreme Court justices dissented in Citizens United. Justice Stevens wrote, "Corporations help structure and facilitate the activities of human beings, to be sure, and their personhood often serves as a useful legal fiction. But they are not themselves members of we the people, by whom and for whom the Constitution was established." The only lasting way to overturn a flawed Supreme Court decision is to amend the Constitution. So far, 19 states, including Massachusetts and over 700 cities and towns, including Boston, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Philadelphia, have passed resolutions calling on Congress to propose a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. This is perhaps the only major issue that commands broad bipartisan support. Passing question 2 would send a message to our political leaders to set their partisan bickering aside and propose a constitutional amendment to realize the vision of democratic government of, by, and for the people. Please vote yes on question 2. Thank you.
We attempted to contact people who were against question 2, and that's Fiscal Alliance, and we did not get a response.
Hi, once again, my name is Holly Ryan, and I've been doing this way too long, for over 20 years, fighting for my own right to exist. I am here to ask you to vote yes on question 3. A bit of history is in 2004, when I was chair of the Transgender Political Coalition, the Massachusetts Transgender Political Coalition. We introduced the first bill at the Massachusetts State Legislature. That bill was passed and signed into law in 2011 by Deval Patrick, and to protect the rights of transgender people in employment, housing, credit, and public education. In 2016, public accommodations were added to the existing law, which was not part of the first bill, and was signed into law in 2016 by Governor Baker. 10 days later, our opposition had gotten enough signatures to put my rights, put a whole group of people's rights on the ballot. For now, you can choose whether we will go to second-class citizenry again and be denied access to the same places that you all have the freedom to go. We're talking about access to hotels, to doctor's offices, to restaurants, to movie theaters, to the public transportation, to hospitals, and to keep it simple, the lunch counter. This is what public accommodations are. My opposition will tell you it's different, and leave these places out and try to get you to vote based on fear and hate. The business community in Massachusetts has galvanized and has got their own campaign going to tell you why you should vote yes on 3. This includes most Fortune 500 companies and Eastern Bank that do business here. You have Bank of America, Google, General Electric, and many other Fortune 500 companies that have their own campaign going for you to vote yes on 3. And what we are saying and what they are saying is Massachusetts will become another North Carolina, will become another Indiana, where we will lose companies. Companies will stop coming here, they will stop expanding, because when they recruit people, They need to recruit the brightest and the best, and they're not going to bring their families here. If one of them is transgender, if one of their children is transgender, if one of their spouses is transgender. And remember, all the states around us have this law in effect. We're talking New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and even Maine protects the rights of transgender people. And it's not a special right, it's just to make sure we're all treated just like you. And the other thing that you all saw happened in North Carolina is sporting events canceled, the NCAA tournaments, the World Series will cancel, all-star games, track and field events, skating events, they just won't come here anymore because people aren't free to go where they want to go. As I said before, my opposition bases this on fear. They want you to be afraid of me, and there's nothing to be afraid of. So I came here today once again to ask you to vote yes on 3 and protect the rights of your friends' children, and your relatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the transgender bills that Paul referenced in Massachusetts, it took about a decade to pass those. Even in